Citizen Kane. Introduction. Citizen Kane, 1941, directed by Orson Welles, is widely regarded as one of the greatest films ever made. A pioneering work in storytelling and cinematography, it follows the enigmatic life of Charles Foster Kane, a media mogul whose final word, Rosebud, sets off a journalistic investigation into his past. Through multiple perspectives and a nonlinear narrative, the film unveils the complexities of Kane's rise and fall. The following is a highly detailed, scene-by-scene recounting of Citizen Kane, capturing its entire story. Opening sequence: the death of Charles Foster Kane. The film begins with an eerie sequence at Kane's Xanadu estate, a vast and opulent mansion surrounded by darkness and mist. Inside, an elderly Charles Foster Kane lies alone in his bed. The camera pans over his personal artifacts, a snow globe in his trembling hand, reflecting a simpler time. As he whispers, "Rosebud," the globe slips from his fingers and shatters on the floor. Nurses rush in, but Kane is dead. His final word remains a mystery. The media frenzy and the assignment of Thompson. A News on the March newsreel follows, summarizing Kane's life, his vast wealth, his political ambitions, and his controversial personal life. The world reacts to his death, but no one understands the meaning of Rosebud. The editor of a major news outlet assigns reporter Jerry Thompson to uncover the significance of Kane's last word. His investigation leads him to those who knew Kane best, each offering fragmented memories. Investigating Kane's childhood, the Thatcher Memoirs. Thompson first seeks out Walter Parks Thatcher's memoirs, detailing Kane's early years. We are taken back to Kane's childhood in Colorado, where his struggling parents come into fortune when they discover a gold mine on their property. Thatcher, a banker, arranges for Kane to be raised with wealth and privilege. Young Kane, torn from his mother's embrace, resents Thatcher and later clashes with him as he inherits control over the New York Enquirer. Kane's rise in journalism, the power of the press. As a young man, Kane revels in his new power, relishing his ability to shape public opinion. He transforms the Enquirer into a sensationalist newspaper, embracing yellow journalism. His energy and charisma attract loyal friends, including Jedediah Leland and Bernstein. Kane's philosophy is simple. He wants to be loved by the public, and he builds an empire on controversy and spectacle. Love and marriage, Emily Norton, and political aspirations. Kane marries Emily Norton, the niece of the U.S. president, further elevating his social status. His ambition turns toward politics, and he runs for governor against corrupt political boss Jim W. Geddes. Kane's campaign is built on populism, promising to fight corruption and stand for the common people. The scandal that ends a career. At the height of his political aspirations, Kane's personal life unravels. He has an affair with Susan Alexander, a young singer. Geddes threatens to expose the scandal, offering Kane a choice: withdraw from the race or face public ruin. Kane, prideful and defiant, refuses. The story breaks, and Kane loses the election. His marriage with Emily falls apart, and he marries Susan in an attempt to salvage his happiness. Susan's opera career, Kane's obsession with control. Kane, determined to turn Susan into a grand opera star, builds her a lavish opera house. However, Susan lacks talent, and her performances are ridiculed. Leland, once Kane's closest friend, writes a scathing review. Kane discovers it before publication and finishes it himself. Unwilling to let Leland's words define him, their friendship ends. isolation and despair, the decline of a titan. Susan, miserable under Kane's control, attempts suicide. Kane, finally realizing she will never be happy, allows her to leave. Now alone, Kane retreats further into Xanadu, filling it with art and artifacts, but never with love or companionship. His wealth grows, but he remains empty. The final years, the search for meaning. Kane's last days are spent in isolation. The man who once commanded headlines is now a forgotten relic. His once loyal staff and friends have abandoned him. As he wanders through his mansion, he finds a snow globe, triggering his final whisper, Rosebud. The truth behind Rosebud. Thompson's search for Rosebud yields no concrete answers. Frustrated, he leaves Xanadu as Kane's belongings are sorted and burned. As the camera lingers on the flames, we see a childhood sled labeled Rosebud being incinerated. The mystery is solved for the audience. Rosebud was the sled Kane had as a boy, representing the innocence and happiness he lost when he was taken from his home. Conclusion: the meaning of Kane's life. Kane's life was one of immense success, yet he died longing for the simplicity of his past. His story is a meditation on power, wealth, love, and the ultimate search for fulfillment. As the flames consume the sled, the film fades to black, leaving behind the haunting realization that despite all his achievements, Kane's deepest desire was to reclaim a moment of lost innocence. The Shawshank Redemption. Introduction. The Shawshank Redemption, 1994. Directed by Frank Darabont and based on Stephen King's novella Rita Hayworth, and Shawshank Redemption is a powerful film about hope, friendship, and redemption. The story follows Andy Dufresne, a banker wrongfully convicted of murdering his wife and her lover, as he navigates life inside Shawshank Prison. His resilience and intelligence gradually reshape the lives of those around him, particularly that of fellow inmate Ellis Red Redding. The following is a highly detailed, scene-by-scene retelling of the film. Opening sequence: Andy's trial. The film opens in 1947 with Andy Dufresne, a successful banker, on trial for the double murder of his wife and her lover. Despite his claims of innocence, the evidence is damning. The prosecution paints a picture of a cold, calculated killer, citing Andy's discovery of his wife's affair, his drinking the night of the murders, and the presence of his gun, loaded but never fired. Andy's detached demeanor in court works against him. The jury, convinced of his guilt, finds him guilty, and the judge hands down 2 consecutive life sentences at Shawshank State Penitentiary. The trial itself is presented in a way that makes Andy appear unsympathetic. His quiet, composed nature is interpreted as indifference. The judge's final words are harsh, condemning Andy to life behind bars in Shawshank, a place known for its brutality and unyielding despair. Arrival at Shawshank. Andy arrives at Shawshank Prison alongside several other new inmates, under the watchful eyes of Warden Samuel Norton and the brutal Captain Byron Hadley. Veteran inmate Ellis Red Redding, who has spent decades inside, takes note of Andy. As part of an inmate ritual, bets are placed on which of the newcomers will break down first. The harsh reality of incarceration sets in as the new prisoners are stripped, hosed down, and given their uniforms. That night, one of the newcomers collapses under the psychological weight of his new reality and is beaten to death by Hadley. Andy, meanwhile, remains silent, calm, and collected, an enigma to the other prisoners. The next day, Andy begins his life inside Shawshank. The prison is a cold, unwelcoming place, Life in prison and Andy's first struggles. Life inside Shawshank is bleak. Andy quickly learns the prison's unwritten rules. He keeps to himself, observing the dynamics of prison life. He suffers greatly under the violent control of the Sisters, a gang led by Boggs Diamond, who repeatedly assault him over the years. Despite these hardships, Andy never loses his composure, never gives in to despair, and never lets prison life break him. The depiction of prison life is stark and brutal. There are few moments of kindness, and the prison guards offer little protection against those who seek to dominate others. Andy's refusal to react violently or succumb to anger makes him stand out even more. Andy and Red's friendship begins. Red is known as the man who can get things. When Andy approaches him for a rock hammer, Red is intrigued but obliges. Andy's interest in geology and his quiet intelligence set him apart. Over time, he earns Red's respect and friendship. Their conversations about life, the possibility of hope, and Andy's interest in carving small chess pieces provide a glimmer of humanity amid the harshness of prison. Red narrates his thoughts on Andy, marveling at his quiet resilience and remarking that there was something different about him. Andy refuses to let the walls of Shawshank define him. Red, however, remains skeptical of hope, believing that in prison, hope is a dangerous thing. The significance of their friendship is central to the story. Andy's quiet demeanor contrasts with Red's practical outlook. Red has long accepted his fate, while Andy remains quietly determined to change his circumstances. Andy's cunning in the library project. Andy's financial expertise catches the attention of the guards, particularly Captain Hadley. By helping Hadley legally shelter an inheritance from taxes, Andy earns protection from further assaults. His skills soon make him indispensable to the corrupt Warden Norton, who sees an opportunity to use Andy's knowledge to launder money. Over time, Andy is given a privileged status, working in the prison's library instead of performing hard labor. Determined to improve conditions, Andy begins writing letters to the state for funding to expand the library. Initially ignored, his persistence pays off, and he receives books, records, and a financial grant. He transforms the library into a sanctuary for learning, helping fellow inmates obtain their GEDs and educating them beyond prison walls. Hope and small victories. Andy's small victories inspire the inmates. One of the most iconic moments occurs when he locks himself in the warden's office and plays the Marriage of Figaro over the prison PA system. The beautiful opera music fills the yard, stopping every inmate in their tracks. For a brief moment, they are free. Andy is punished with solitary confinement, but he remains undeterred. When he tells Red that hope is what keeps him going, Red warns him that hope can drive a man insane. But Andy, ever the optimist, holds on to his belief that freedom exists in the mind. Tommy Williams and the Key to Freedom. In 1965, a young inmate named Tommy Williams arrives at Shawshank. Charismatic and full of life, Tommy bonds with Andy and Red. Through their conversations, Andy learns that Tommy once met a man who boasted about killing a woman and her lover, matching the details of Andy's case. This revelation renews Andy's hope. Andy brings this information to Warden Norton, hoping for a chance at exoneration. But Norton, fearing the loss of his money laundering asset, has Tommy murdered under the guise of an escape attempt. Andy, devastated but not broken, realizes that he will never be free unless he takes matters into his own hands. Andy's escape, the ultimate redemption. years, Andy has been carving a tunnel through his cell wall using the rock hammer Red gave him, hiding the hole behind posters of glamorous actresses, most notably Rita Hayworth and later Raquel Welch. On a stormy night, Andy executes his escape. Crawling through the tunnel, he emerges into a sewer pipe leading beyond the prison walls. Under the cover of night and rain, he reaches freedom. Using the warden's own corrupt system against him, Andy withdraws the laundered money under the assumed identity of Randall Stevens and mails incriminating evidence to the authorities. The fallout is swift. Captain Hadley is arrested, and Warden Norton, faced with impending justice, takes his own life. Red's parole and final reunion. Red, after decades in Shawshank, finally receives parole. Struggling to adapt to the outside world, he follows Andy's instructions to a hidden location in a rural field. There, he finds money and a letter from Andy, inviting him to join him in Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Red, finally embracing hope, violates his parole and makes the journey. The film ends with Red walking along a sunlit beach, reuniting with Andy in a moment of pure redemption and freedom. The Godfather. Introduction. The Godfather, 1972, directed by Francis Ford Coppola and based on Mario Puzo's novel, is widely considered one of the greatest films ever made. It tells the story of the powerful Corleone crime family, led by Don Vito Corleone, and the transformation of his reluctant son, Michael Corleone, into a ruthless mafia leader. The film explores themes of power, loyalty, family, and the dark underbelly of the American dream. The following is an extensive, scene-by-scene retelling of the film, capturing its entire narrative in great detail, providing additional context, character development, and analysis. Opening sequence, A Favor on the Wedding Day. The film opens with the iconic phrase, "I believe in America." The camera focuses on the desperate undertaker, Bonacera, who pleads for justice from Don Vito Corleone, Marlon Brando, after his daughter was assaulted. Bonacera initially sought justice through the American legal system, but the lenient sentencing of the perpetrators left him disillusioned. Now, he comes to Vito for help, acknowledging the Don's power to right wrongs outside the constraints of the law. Vito listens, but reminds Bonacera that he never sought friendship before asking for a favor. This opening sets the stage for the Corleone family's code of respect and loyalty. Friendship is currency, and power is exercised with precision. Meanwhile, outside in bright contrast, the Corleone family wedding is in full swing. Vito's daughter, Connie, Talia Shire, is getting married to Carlo Rizzi, Johnny Russo. As tradition dictates, Vito cannot refuse a favor on his daughter's wedding day. His consigliere, Tom Hagen, Robert Duvall, manages the numerous guests seeking the Don's influence. The wedding introduces the core members of the Corleone family: the hot-tempered Sonny Corleone, James Caan; the insecure and weak-willed Fredo Corleone, John Cazale; and Michael Corleone, Al Pacino, who has returned from World War II with his girlfriend, Kay Adams, Diane Keaton. Unlike his brothers, Michael is not involved in the family business. During the reception, various subplots emerge. Singer Johnny Fontaine, Al Martino, Vito's godson, seeks his help in securing a film role. Johnny laments that a Hollywood producer, Jack Woltz, is refusing to cast him out of spite. This leads to one of the film's most famous lines: "I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse." Vito dispatches his enforcer, Luca Brasi, Lenny Montana, to intimidate Woltz into submission. The Woltz horsehead incident. Tom Hagen visits Waltz at his lavish estate. Waltz, initially friendly, turns hostile when Tom requests Johnny Fontaine be cast in an upcoming film. Waltz spitefully refuses, revealing his deep resentment toward Johnny. That night, Waltz wakes up to a horrifying sight. His prized racehorse's severed head in his bed, its blood-soaked sheets symbolizing the Corleones' ruthless efficiency. This moment firmly establishes the extent of the family's power and their willingness to resort to extreme methods to get their way. The tension with Sollozzo and the attempt on Don Corleone's life. Virgil, the Turk, Sollozzo, Alighieri, backed by the rival Tattaglia family, approaches the Corleones with a proposal to invest in narcotics. He needs Vito's political connections to protect the operation. Vito, believing drugs will corrupt the family's reputation and bring unwanted federal attention, refuses. Sonny, more impulsive, shows interest, but Vito silences him. Seeing the Corleones as a threat to his business, Sollozzo arranges for an assassination attempt on Don Vito. Vito is gunned down in the streets, but miraculously survives. His loyal bodyguard is killed, and the family is thrown into chaos. With the Don hospitalized, Sonny takes charge, and Michael, previously uninvolved, is drawn into the conflict. The power vacuum within the Corleone family creates tensions, with Sonny's reckless nature posing risks. Michael's first kill, the turning point. Michael visits his father in the hospital and realizes that the guards have been removed, leaving Vito vulnerable. He quickly enlists the help of a nurse and a baker to move his father's bed and stand guard. When Captain McCluskey, Sterling Hayden, a corrupt cop on Sollozzo's payroll, arrives and brutally punches Michael, it deepens his resolve to act. Sonny devises a plan to eliminate Sollozzo and McCluskey. Michael volunteers to do it, knowing that killing a police officer will forever change his life. The family arranges a meeting between Michael, Sollozzo, and McCluskey at a quiet Italian restaurant. A gun is planted in the bathroom. In one of the film's most intense scenes, Michael retrieves the gun and kills both men, marking his irreversible transformation. The execution is messy and emotional. Michael hesitates for a moment, but once the shots ring out, he commits fully to his new path. Michael's exile to Sicily and Sonny's brutal death. Michael flees to Sicily, where he is hidden under the protection of local allies. There, he falls in love with and marries a Sicilian woman, Apollonia. Their happiness is short-lived. Apollonia is killed in a car bomb meant for Michael, shattering his last link to innocence. Meanwhile, back in New York, tensions escalate. Sonny brutally beats Carlo, his brother-in-law, for abusing Connie. Carlo, humiliated, conspires with the Barsinis, the Corleones' true enemies. Sonny is ambushed at a toll booth in a hail of bullets, one of the film's most shocking and tragic moments. The devastated Don Vito arranges a meeting with the 5 families to end the war, realizing that revenge would only bring more loss. He agrees to a truce, knowing that Michael will return to restore the family's power. Michael returns and takes over the family. With Sonny dead, Michael returns to New York and takes his rightful place in the family. He marries Kay and promises her that the Corleone family will become legitimate within 5 years. However, his rise to power is inevitable. Vito, now weakened, advises Michael on how to survive in the mafia world. He warns that whoever approaches him with a meeting invitation from Barzini is the real traitor. Soon after, Vito dies of a heart attack while playing with his grandson. Michael becomes the new Don. The final baptism massacre. In a brilliantly edited sequence, Michael orchestrates the simultaneous assassinations of the Corleone's enemies while attending the baptism of Connie's baby. As he stands as Godfather, reciting sacred vows, his men execute the heads of the rival families, and Carlo, the traitor responsible for Sonny's death. When Connie confronts Michael about Carlo's murder, Kay asks if it's true. In the final chilling moment, Michael lies, saying no. The door closes on Kay, symbolizing the end of Michael's innocence and his full embrace of power. Conclusion: the fall of Michael's soul. The Godfather is a tale of power, loyalty, and moral corruption. Michael's transformation from an idealistic outsider to a ruthless mafia boss is one of the greatest character arcs in cinema history. Though he achieves power, he loses his soul and the very thing he sought to protect, his family. Casablanca. Introduction. Casablanca, 1942, directed by Michael Curtis, is one of the greatest films ever made. Set during World War II, the film blends romance, intrigue, and political drama, focusing on a love triangle between American expatriate Rick Blaine, his former lover, Ilsa Lund, and her husband, resistance leader Victor Laszlo. With a backdrop of war-torn Europe and occupied French Morocco, Casablanca is a story of love, sacrifice, and the tough choices one must make in times of crisis. The following is an extensive, scene-by-scene retelling of the film, capturing its rich narrative, iconic moments, and lasting impact. Opening sequence: the world at war. The film opens with a narrator explaining the desperate journey of refugees fleeing Nazi-occupied Europe. Their ultimate goal is to reach America, but first, they must pass through Casablanca, a crucial gateway in neutral French Morocco. The camera follows desperate individuals as they navigate the city's crowded streets, encountering black market dealers, corrupt officials, and Nazi agents looking to prevent escape. We are then introduced to the significance of letters of transit, documents that allow the bearer to leave Casablanca without interference. These letters, stolen from 2 murdered German couriers, become the film's central MacGuffin, driving the plot forward. The tension in the city is palpable, as those seeking to escape know that one misstep can mean capture or even death. Rick's Café Américain, the hub of Casablanca. Rick Blaine, Humphrey Bogart, owns and operates Rick's Café Américain, the most popular nightclub and gambling den in Casablanca. It is a melting pot of European refugees, Vichy French officials, Nazi officers, and criminals. Rick is a cynical, world-weary man who claims he sticks his neck out for nobody. Despite his detached demeanor, he commands respect. His past remains mysterious, but hints of his involvement in anti-fascist causes emerge throughout the film. Ugarte, Peter Lorre, a petty crook, enters Rick's club and boasts about possessing the stolen letters of transit. He asks Rick to hold them for him, believing Rick's establishment to be the safest place in Casablanca. Before anything can be arranged, Ugarte is arrested by Captain Louis Renault, Claude Rains, the corrupt but charming French police captain who keeps order in the city while discreetly looking out for himself. Ugarte desperately pleads for Rick's help, but Rick remains indifferent. Soon after, Ugarte dies in police custody, leaving the letter's whereabouts unknown. Ilsa and Victor arrive. The atmosphere at Rick's changes when Ilsa Lund, Ingrid Bergman, and her husband, Victor Laszlo, Paul Henrade, arrive at the club. Laszlo, a legendary leader of the anti-Nazi resistance, is being hunted by the Nazis. Colonel Strasser, Conrad Veidt, a high-ranking Nazi officer, makes it clear that Laszlo will not leave Casablanca alive unless he cooperates. visibly shaken. Flashbacks reveal that they were once deeply in love in Paris before the German invasion. As the Nazis approached, they planned to flee together. But on the day of their departure, Ilse abandoned Rick without explanation. Heartbroken, Rick became the bitter man we now see. As time goes by and rekindled emotions, Sam, Dooley Wilson, Rick's loyal pianist, had been instructed never to play As Time Goes By, a song that holds deep meaning for Rick and Ilse. However, upon Ilse's request, Sam plays it, causing Rick to furiously storm over, only to come face to face with Ilse. The moment is heavy with unresolved feelings and heartbreak. Rick is both angry and vulnerable, exposing the depth of his pain. Later, Ilse tries to explain why she left Rick, but finds it difficult. Rick, still wounded, rebuffs her attempts, drinking heavily and reliving their Parisian romance through another flashback sequence. The memories contrast sharply with his current bitterness, highlighting how deeply he was hurt. Laszlo's plight and the search for exit papers. Laszlo, determined to continue his fight against the Nazis, searches for a way to escape Casablanca. He learns that Rick may have the letters of transit, but is unsure if Rick will part with them. Meanwhile, Renaud plays both sides, helping the Nazis when necessary, but always looking out for his own interests. One of the film's most powerful scenes occurs when a group of Nazi officers start singing Die Wacht am Rhein at Rick's cafe. Laszlo, unwilling to be intimidated, leads the band and patrons in a defiant rendition of La Marseillaise. The Nazis are drowned out, and the scene ends with tears, anger, and a renewed sense of resistance. Ilse's plea and Rick's dilemma. Ilse, desperate, confronts Rick alone in his apartment. She confesses that she still loves him, and that she left him in Paris only because she believed Laszlo had died. When she found out Victor was alive, she felt she had no choice but to stay with him. She begs Rick for the letters of transit, even pointing a gun at him, but she cannot bring herself to pull the trigger. Rick, moved by her honesty, finally softens. Rick's decision and the escape plan. The climax of the film sees Rick setting his plan into motion. Instead of using the letters to escape with Ilse, he surprises everyone by ensuring that Ilse and Laszlo leave together. He deceives Renaud into thinking he is handing Laszlo over, but ultimately turns the tables on the corrupt captain. In a thrilling final act, Rick shoots Strasser just as he attempts to stop the plane from departing. With Laszlo and Ilse safely away, Renaud, impressed by Rick's unexpected nobility, decides to cover for him. The film ends with Rick and Renaud walking off together, hinting at a new alliance, as Rick utters the famous line, "Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship." Conclusion: love, sacrifice, and moral growth. Casablanca is more than a love story. It's about selflessness and the courage to do what is right. Rick's transformation from a self-centered cynic to a man willing to sacrifice his own happiness for a greater cause remains one of cinema's most compelling character arcs. The film's themes of love, war, and resistance continue to resonate, making Casablanca a timeless masterpiece. Gone with the Wind. Introduction. Gone with the Wind, 1939, directed by Victor Fleming and based on Margaret Mitchell's novel, is an epic historical romance set during the American Civil War and Reconstruction era. The film follows the passionate and tumultuous life of Scarlett O'Hara, a Southern belle whose love for Ashley Wilkes and complex relationship with Rhett Butler shape her journey through war, loss, and resilience. With breathtaking cinematography, unforgettable characters, and sweeping drama, Gone with the Wind remains a cornerstone of classic Hollywood cinema. Opening, Life at Terra. The film opens in 1861 at Terra, a grand southern plantation owned by the O'Hara family in Georgia. Scarlett O'Hara, Vivian Lee, the spoiled and beautiful daughter of Gerald and Ellen O'Hara, is courted by multiple young men, but secretly loves Ashley Wilkes, Leslie Howard, the gentlemanly heir to the neighboring 12 Oaks plantation. However, Ashley is set to marry his cousin, Melanie Hamilton, Olivia de Havilland, a kind and gentle woman, which frustrates Scarlett. At a barbecue at 12 Oaks, Scarlett confesses her love to Ashley, but he insists that he must marry Melanie. Furious and heartbroken, she flees, only to encounter Rhett Butler, Clark Gable, a roguish, wealthy visitor who overhears her passionate declaration. Rhett, intrigued by her fiery nature, instantly takes a liking to her, recognizing in her a survivor's spirit. His charm, boldness, and disregard for convention contrast sharply with Ashley's quiet, reserved nature. Scarlett's world is turned upside down when news arrives that the Civil War has begun. Southern men, including Ashley, rush to enlist. In a fit of impulsive jealousy, Scarlett agrees to marry Melanie's timid brother, Charles Hamilton, just to spite Ashley. However, Charles soon dies of illness in a Confederate camp, leaving Scarlett widowed before even experiencing true married life. The war begins, and Scarlett moves to Atlanta. Despite her supposed mourning, Scarlett quickly grows bored of widowhood. Seeking excitement, she moves to Atlanta to stay with Melanie and her Aunt Pitty Pat. There, she becomes immersed in the war effort, but secretly pines for Ashley, who is still away fighting. Atlanta, a bustling war city, is filled with soldiers, officers, and desperate civilians. The contrast between her pampered life at Terra and the growing hardships of war is stark. At a charity ball, Rhett Butler, now a notorious blockade runner profiting from the war, makes a grand entrance. Rhett, unlike the other men, openly admires Scarlett's selfishness and ambition, traits he sees in himself. When Scarlett scandalously agrees to dance with Rhett despite her widow status, she sets the town gossip ablaze. Their dance is electric with tension as Rhett boldly flirts with her, teasing her about her love for Ashley and her pretense of Southern propriety. As the war rages on, Scarlett struggles to maintain her composure. When Ashley returns on leave, she desperately throws herself at him, but he remains loyal to Melanie. Their stolen moment together is filled with longing and restraint, further fueling Scarlett's obsession. Scarlett's strength in crisis, the fall of Atlanta. As Union troops advance, Atlanta descends into chaos. The once glorious city is now a battleground, filled with wounded soldiers, burning buildings, and desperate citizens. Melanie, now pregnant, goes into labor just as the city is about to be overtaken. With no doctors available, Scarlett is forced to help deliver the baby herself, an experience that forces her to mature quickly. With the city burning around them, Scarlett realizes they must escape. She seeks out Rhett, who secures a horse and wagon for their dangerous journey. As they flee, Atlanta erupts into flames, creating one of the most visually stunning sequences in the film. Midway through their journey, Rhett suddenly leaves to join the Confederate Army, abandoning Scarlett to make the perilous trip home alone. This betrayal reinforces Scarlett's realization that she must fend for herself. Return to Terra, hardship and survival. Upon returning to Terra, Scarlett is devastated to find her home in ruins. Her mother has died, her father is mentally broken, and Union soldiers have taken everything of value. Scarlet, once pampered and naive, vows that she will survive no matter what. In a dramatic moment, she pulls a radish from the barren land and declares, "As God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again." Scarlet takes charge, forcing herself, her sisters, and their former slaves to work the land. She fends off a Union soldier attempting to loot Tara, kills him, and steals his money, solidifying her transformation into a hardened survivor. To pay the newly imposed taxes on Tara, Scarlet deceitfully marries her sister's wealthy fiancé, Frank Kennedy, a business owner in Atlanta. Though she doesn't love him, Scarlet secures financial stability, using the money to revive Tara and invest in lumber mills. Her ruthless business tactics, including employing convict labor and partnering with northern opportunists, earn her enemies but also solidify her independence. Scarlet and Rhett's marriage, love and turmoil. Frank Kennedy is later killed by Union troops, leaving Scarlet widowed once more. Rhett Butler, sensing an opportunity, proposes to Scarlet, promising wealth, adventure, and security. Despite still harboring feelings for Ashley, Scarlet agrees, drawn to Rhett's confidence and fortune. Their marriage is passionate but fraught with conflict. They move into a lavish mansion in Atlanta, and Scarlet gives birth to a daughter, Bonnie Blue Butler. However, their relationship is strained by Scarlet's continued obsession with Ashley and Rhett's frustration with her inability to fully love him. As Scarlet becomes colder and more ambitious, Rhett turns to drinking and finds solace in Bonnie, whom he adores. Tragedy strikes when Bonnie dies in a riding accident. Rhett is devastated, while Scarlet remains emotionally distant. The loss drives them further apart, culminating in a violent confrontation in which Rhett leaves her. Final heartbreak and Scarlet's resolution. After Melanie's sudden death, Scarlet finally realizes that Ashley was never truly hers, and that she has wasted years chasing an illusion. Rushing home to confess her love to Rhett, she finds him packing to leave. In one of cinema's most famous lines, Rhett dismisses her with, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." Devastated but refusing to surrender, Scarlet clings to her belief that she can win him back. Returning to Tara, she draws strength from the land, whispering, "After all, tomorrow is another day." The film ends with her standing defiantly, a symbol of resilience. Conclusion: a story of survival and change. Gone with the Wind is a tale of transformation, resilience, and survival. Scarlett O'Hara, once a selfish and vain Southern belle, evolves into a fierce, determined woman who learns that love and security are fleeting. The film's legacy remains powerful, capturing the collapse of the Old South, the hardships of war, and the enduring strength of its protagonist. Lawrence of Arabia. Introduction. Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, directed by David Lean, is a sweeping epic that chronicles the extraordinary life of T.E. Lawrence, a British officer who played a pivotal role in the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire during World War I. The film, known for its stunning cinematography, compelling character study, and grand storytelling, follows Lawrence's transformation from an eccentric and ambitious soldier to a legendary, yet ultimately tragic figure. Opening sequence: the death of a legend. The film begins in 1935 with the fatal motorcycle accident of T.E. Lawrence, Peter O'Toole, in England. As his funeral is held at St. Paul's Cathedral, various dignitaries and military officials speak about him with admiration and ambiguity, setting the stage for the film's exploration of his enigmatic legacy. The narrative then then shifts back in time to World War I, introducing us to a young and restless Lawrence stationed in Cairo, yearning for a meaningful role in the war. Lawrence's assignment. The journey begins. Lawrence is an unconventional British officer, intelligent, flamboyant, and deeply fascinated by the Arab culture. His superiors see him as insubordinate, but recognize his knowledge of the Middle East. Mr. Dryden, Claude Rains, a political advisor, assigns Lawrence to assess the situation of Prince Faisal, Alec Guinness, who is leading Arab forces against the Ottoman Turks. Lawrence, excited by the mission, sets off on a grueling desert journey, accompanied by his Bedouin guide, Tafas. Encounter with Sheriff Ali and arrival at Faisal's camp. As Lawrence and Tafas cross the desert, they come across a well-controlled by Sheriff Ali, Omar Sharif, a powerful Arab leader. Ali kills Tafas for drinking from the well without permission, marking the brutality and strict tribal customs of the region. Despite their tense introduction, Lawrence and Ali engage in philosophical discussions, setting the stage for their eventual alliance. Lawrence reaches Prince Faisal's encampment, where he witnesses a brutal Turkish aerial assault on the Arab forces. He advises Faisal to abandon traditional warfare and instead adopt guerrilla tactics. Faisal, intrigued but skeptical, sees promise in Lawrence's unorthodox thinking. The interaction between the two men showcases Faisal's pragmatic leadership and Lawrence's idealistic vision. The bold attack on Aqaba. Lawrence, determined to prove himself, devises a daring plan to take the heavily fortified city of Aqaba from the Turks. He believes the key to success is an unexpected attack from the desert, where no one anticipates an assault. He persuades Faisal to give him 50 men, including Sheriff Ali and the skeptical Auda Abu Tai, Anthony Quinn, leader of a rival Bedouin tribe. Their trek across the Nefud Desert is one of the film's most harrowing sequences. The intense heat, lack of water, and sheer vastness test their endurance. At one point, a man named Qasim is left behind, presumed dead. Lawrence, defying logic and tribal expectations, turns back to rescue him. This heroic act earns him the respect of the Arabs and solidifies his leadership. After reaching Aqaba, the group launches a surprise attack, taking the city with minimal casualties. The victory is a turning point, demonstrating Lawrence's growing influence among the Arabs. He returns to Cairo, dressed in flowing Arab robes, to announce the conquest to his astonished superiors. A new identity, the making of a myth. Lawrence's success earns him both admiration and suspicion. General Allenby, Jack Hawkins, sees his potential and supports further Arab involvement in the war, though with imperialist intentions. Lawrence, now fully immersed in Arab culture, begins to adopt their customs and perspectives. However, his increasing self-image as a messianic figure hints at the psychological toll his role is taking. The train raids and rise of guerrilla warfare. Determined to continue aiding the Arab revolt, Lawrence leads daring attacks on Turkish supply trains. These sequences, featuring stunning desert cinematography, highlight Lawrence's tactical genius and growing ruthlessness. The Arab fighters, now seeing him as a near-mythical figure, follow him with unwavering loyalty. One particularly brutal moment occurs when Lawrence executes a wounded Turkish soldier to prevent him from slowing them down. This act marks a shift in his character, from an idealist to someone deeply affected by war's moral compromises. Capture and torture in Daraa. Lawrence's confidence eventually leads to his downfall. Disguised as an Arab, He enters the Turkish-held city of Dara to gather intelligence, but is captured by the Turks. The Turkish Bey, José Ferrer, brutally tortures and humiliates him, leaving him physically and emotionally scarred. This traumatic experience shatters Lawrence's illusions of invincibility. He emerges from Dara a changed man, deeply questioning his purpose and identity. He returns to the British command in Cairo, disillusioned and eager to leave the Arab campaign. However, General Allenby convinces him to lead one final offensive. The fall of Damascus and Lawrence's disillusionment. With British support, Lawrence leads Arab forces to capture Damascus. However, the victory is hollow. The Arab Council formed to govern the city falls into disarray due to tribal infighting, and the British quietly take control. Lawrence realizes he has been used as a political pawn. His grand vision of Arab unity crumbles, and his internal struggles reach their peak. Having lost faith in both the British and the Arabs, he requests to be relieved of his duties. Final scene: the end of the journey. As Lawrence departs the Middle East, he is a shadow of the man who once embraced the desert with wide-eyed wonder. A convoy of military vehicles passes him, symbolizing the relentless march of modernity, rendering his contributions obsolete. The film ends with a sense of melancholy, reinforcing the idea that Lawrence, despite his accomplishments, remains an enigma, a man who could never fully belong to either world. Conclusion: the legacy of Lawrence. Lawrence of Arabia is not just a war epic. It is a profound character study of a man caught between two identities. His journey from an ambitious officer to a mythic leader, and ultimately to a broken figure, mirrors the larger themes of imperialism, identity, and the complexities of leadership. The film's sweeping cinematography, unforgettable performances, and deep philosophical themes ensure its place as one of cinema's greatest masterpieces. Ben-Hur. Introduction. Ben-Hur, 1959, directed by William Wyler and starring Charlton Heston, is one of the greatest epics in cinematic history. Based on Lew Wallace's 1880 novel, Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ, the film tells the sweeping story of Judah Ben-Hur, a Jewish prince who suffers betrayal, enslavement, and an arduous journey to reclaim his honor. Against the backdrop of Roman-occupied Judea, Ben-Hur's story is interwoven with the life of Jesus Christ, adding a profound spiritual depth to the film. Opening sequence: the Nativity. The film opens with a sequence depicting the birth of Jesus Christ in Bethlehem, setting the stage for the parallel narratives of faith and redemption that run throughout Ben-Hur. Shepherds gather around the newborn as the star of Bethlehem shines brightly, hinting at the divine presence that will later influence Judah Ben-Hur's journey. As the opening credits unfold, the majestic score by Miklos Rosa establishes the epic scale of the story to come. The grandeur of the film is apparent from the very first frame, setting the tone for an unforgettable cinematic experience. Life in Jerusalem, the friendship and betrayal. Judah Ben-Hur, Charlton Heston, is a wealthy Jewish prince living in Jerusalem with his mother, Miriam, and sister, Tirzah. His childhood friend, Masala, Stephen Boyd, has returned to Jerusalem as a powerful Roman tribune. At first, their friendship rekindles, but tensions quickly arise. Masala, loyal to Rome, urges Judah to betray any Jewish rebels who oppose Roman rule. Judah, committed to his people, refuses. Their ideological divide grows, leading to one of cinema's most tragic betrayals. During a procession, a loose tile from Judah's house accidentally accidentally falls, nearly injuring the new Roman governor, Valerius Gratus. Although it is an accident, Messala seizes the opportunity to condemn Judah as a traitor. He orders Judah's arrest, condemning him to slavery while imprisoning Miriam and Tirzah. As Judah is dragged through the streets, he vows revenge upon Messala. The slave galleys, years of suffering. Judah is chained and sent to work in the Roman slave galleys, enduring years of grueling labor. The harsh conditions nearly break him, but his will to survive remains strong. During a fierce naval battle, the galley is attacked, and Judah seizes the chance to escape. He saves the life of Roman consul Quintus Arrius, who, in gratitude, adopts Judah as his son and provides him with training as a charioteer. Under Arrius's guidance, Judah becomes an expert charioteer and a skilled warrior. His transformation from a broken prisoner to a formidable competitor sets the stage for his return to Jerusalem and his long-awaited confrontation with Messala. Through his time in Rome, Judah gains a deeper understanding of the world beyond Judea. He recognizes the corruption and cruelty of Roman rule, but also begins to see the complexities of power and loyalty. His internal conflict grows as he realizes that his hatred for Messala, while justified, has begun to consume him. Return to Judea, searching for family. Years later, Judah returns to Jerusalem as a free and influential man. He searches for his mother and sister, only to learn that they have been imprisoned for years and now suffer from leprosy. Believing themselves to be beyond salvation, Miriam and Tirzah hide from Judah, refusing to let him see them. Enraged and grief-stricken, Judah seeks vengeance against Messala. He enters the chariot race, the most famous sequence in Ben-Hur, to challenge Messala in the grand arena. The stakes are not only personal, but also symbolic. Judah represents justice, while Messala embodies oppression and tyranny. As Judah prepares for the race, he trains with Sheikh Ilderim, a wealthy and influential Arab who admires Judah's resilience. Ilderim, played by Hugh Griffith, provides comic relief, but also acts as a mentor figure, teaching Judah about patience and strategy. The chariot race, the legendary showdown. The climactic chariot race is one of the most breathtaking sequences in cinematic history. Set in the massive Circus Maximus arena, the race is brutal and intense. Messala, ruthless and determined, uses every dirty trick to eliminate his opponents. Judah, skilled and driven by vengeance, matches Messala's aggression. In a stunning turn of events, Messala crashes violently, suffering fatal injuries. Before dying, he spitefully reveals to Judah that Miriam and Tirzah are still alive, but living in a leper colony. The victory, though satisfying, does not bring Judah peace. He realizes that revenge has not healed his wounds, and his family still suffers. The encounter with Jesus, redemption and healing. As Judah carries his mother and sister to seek help, he encounters Jesus Christ on his way to crucifixion. The sight of Jesus, suffering yet serene, deeply affects Judah. He recalls their first meeting years ago when Jesus had given him water during his march to the slave galleys. Now, witnessing Jesus' sacrifice, Judah begins to understand the power of forgiveness and compassion. As rain falls and washes over the land, a miracle occurs. Miriam and Tirzah are healed of their leprosy. Judah, moved by the divine act, lets go of his anger and embraces a newfound faith. Conclusion: the transformation of Judah Ben-Hur. In the final scenes, Judah returns to his home, no longer driven by vengeance, but by love and faith. he realizes that his journey was never about defeating Masala, but about discovering his own soul. As he watches the sunset, he acknowledges the lessons he has learned, the power of forgiveness, the futility of hatred, and the ultimate triumph of grace. Legacy of Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur remains one of the most influential films of all time, not just for its technical brilliance, but for its profound themes of redemption and spiritual awakening. Judah Ben-Hur's transformation from a vengeful warrior to a man of peace reflects universal truths about the human condition. The film's breathtaking cinematography, legendary chariot race, and emotional depth continue to captivate audiences, securing its place in cinematic history.